So I got the OnePlus One, and I thought it'd be awesome to do the entire video in 4K, holding the OnePlus One in front of me, and then I thought, well, wait a minute, then you guys won't be able to see the OnePlus One. So, Jimmy, can you come and take this out of my hands?
Sure.
All right, thanks. This is the OnePlus One. So I have the OnePlus One here in my hand. This is going to be just a first impression overview video. I've only had it for a few days, and they've called this phone the flagship killer, and I think that's a bit of a difficult thing to say right now because nobody can buy it. How can it kill a flagship if there's only like a few thousand of these circulating around the world? Well, I happened to get one because I leveraged my power on the internet, and I kind of feel guilty about doing that. But yep, we have a couple of these here, and we're just going to talk in general about the camera, about the build quality, and about some of the features here that are unique with the OnePlus One. Now, I got this mainly because of CyanogenMod. They're using CM11S. It's very similar to CM11, but CyanogenMod is mainly the reason to pick one of these up, other than some of the more advanced features. But CyanogenMod gives you a no-nonsense version of Android without any of the bloatware, and it's designed by the team, CyanogenMod team, and it really gives you a level of, I guess, control that you've never had with Android, maybe not before, unless you've used some really advanced ROMs. So for a lot of people, it's going to be overwhelming, but for me, this is just as nerdy as I like it, and I'd even like it to be somewhat nerdier in some ways. Now, the screen is huge and beautiful. It's a 1080p 5.5-inch screen, 401 pixels per inch. Not the best on the market, but I think 1080p is totally viable here, even up close. I'm not able to see any of the pixels, and I'm really happy with the IPS display that they've used. The viewing angles gets a little dark when you turn it to the sides, but even at the sides, everything is completely crisp and legible, so no complaints there at all. Before we move on, I'll finish up talking about the dimensions. Across the top here, it's 2.9 inches or 75.9 millimeters. And then the thickness here, right there, as you can see, is 0.35 inches or 8.9 millimeters. The height is 6 inches or 152.9 millimeters. This thing is really large. It's going to be a bit uncomfortable for people with small hands, and that is probably my biggest complaint, is like being able to reach a lot of the things one-handed. It gets a little difficult, and it can be easy to drop the phone. So this is a phone that I recommend using both your hands on. I can sometimes get away with using Reddit and that sort of thing with one hand, but yeah. On the back here we have a nice, it's a strange, I saw someone online describe this as sandpaper mixed with velvet, and that's almost exactly what it is. It has a rough feel to it, kind of like unfinished pottery maybe, but there's also a softness to it, so that does help with the grip a little bit. Now, this does have a really large battery. It's a 3100 milliamp hour battery, and that's going to allow you to talk for about 14 hours, and I mean, it depends on the usage. Most people are going to be able to get through almost a full day, unless you're watching lots of videos. Then around, I don't know, sometime in the mid-afternoon, you're going to be like, you know what, I need to go charge my phone. But you can almost get through a full day of use with this camera. The processor in this is a 2.5 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon. It's an 801 processor. It's ridiculously fast. It also has 3 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of space in this one. They also have a white version that has 16 gigabytes. It's kind of weird to jump from 16 to 64, but I don't think anybody wants the white version. Everybody wants this version. 64 megabytes makes me very happy. I'm kind of angry that there's no, micro SD card slot, but 64 gigabytes makes me almost ready to forget them, almost maybe. Doesn't have some of the features that crazy phones have, like thumbprint to unlock and all that kind of thing. It doesn't have any of that. Also want to note that the flash on the back, there's 2 LEDs, which is nice because you have one LED to focus and then the other LED as a flash, but they're both the same color, so you're just spraying people with light instead of having like one of the red or the infrared lights that hits them first to help with the focus assist in low light. While we're back here, let's go ahead and talk about the camera. We have a 13 megapixel camera using a Sony Exmor sensor. It's actually a really nice sensor. Of course, the freaking sensor is tiny in there, but it does open up to f2.0, so it's decent for low light. It does ramp up the ISO quite a bit, and you guys are seeing some footage right now. The ISO, in my opinion, is softer than most ISO out there, and it's, the grain is acceptable, but it does have to amp that up. Now, this does shoot in 4K, both 4K UHD for video. It'll do 1080p and all the other different modes, but it'll shoot in 4K at 30 frames a second for UHD. And then if you want to go all the way up to true 4K, you can do that at 24 frames a second. And we've pretty much shot everything that you're seeing with this camera at 4K. The camera software that comes with this from CyanogenMod is sort of a fork of the old Google version before they moved on to get their custom, you know, blurring and all that cool stuff. But you can download the new Google app and use that as your camera option. It does not support 4K. You can download some of the more advanced apps, but they at this point do not support 4K on this camera. I've sent some emails to a few different you know, app programmers and that sort of thing, said, please give me 4K with your app because I need the manual controls for everything. You don't really have too many manual controls, just a tiny bit, so that's kind of a gripe. And I found the photos to be somewhat inconsistent. Sometimes just like it'll read the light differently. Sometimes the light looks perfect, and then sometimes it's just blowing the hell out of things and overexposing them. So if I had like more control over exactly where on the screen the light meter was or whatever, it'd be much nicer. But we do have, you know, it's already better than almost everything out there. And you guys have heard the microphone. You guys heard the microphone in the intro. That was the mic right here on the camera. So you guys can be the judge of that. I'm not going to get completely nerdy about the, you know, everything that's going on with the software. You just have a huge level of control here, guys. You can control a gazillion different things. There's even a built-in equalizer for the audio. So the main thing here is giving you a platform that you can do anything with. You're not going to be forced to have a bunch of bloatware on there like the Sprint wallet and the T-Mobile this and the Sony experience or whatever the hell these guys put on there. You're not going to have to worry about all that crap. It's gone. It's a clean version of Android, and it's very easy to root if you wanted to root it. Now, the last thing I want to mention here is that this does have a lot of options for Wi-Fi. Of course, you've got 3G, 4G, and LTE with this phone, but you also have 802.11 ABG, N, and AC. Yes, wireless AC right here. So, and the other thing I found, this thing is extremely snappy when you use it. It's like the fastest experience I've ever had with a phone, and it pretty much beats just about every other phone I've seen as far as the synthetic benchmarks go. I don't really care about the synthetic benchmarks too much, except for the fact that this one wins, and that makes me happy. Anything else I need to mention? Taking the back off is quite difficult. You really have to pry your fingernails under there. It's a bit frustrating. Installing the SIM card right here on the side, there's a tiny little dot right there. It comes in the box with a keychain that comes apart. You press it in there and it ejects the SIM slot and uses a micro SIM, of course. So there's that. The buttons are all cleverly placed and very slim. I found it very easy to use with one hand as far as the buttons go. As far as the gripes, I don't have too many. It doesn't have as many bells and whistles as some phones. It's a lot nerdier than a lot of the phones out there. I don't like the fact that there's no micro SD card slot. That's a gripe. I don't like the fact that a phone this size, that is this powerful and this nerdy, only has one SIM card slot. Really, I can't travel the world and put multiple SIM card slots in this. I've got cheap phones from Asia that are, you know, similar in quality as far as the screen goes, but they just don't have as many features, and they're not 4G, and they have multiple SIM card slots. So that's a pretty negative feature. Other than that, it's the fastest thing you can get. I just wish that everyone could have them, because right now it's the flagship killer that no one can have. So what's it gonna do? I don't know. You guys can't have one of these. I'm sorry. If I get some invites, I'll be glad to send them out, but I don't know if CyanogenMod even knows who I am. I had to get one of the invites just like you guys, so good luck getting an invite. And yeah, that's the OnePlus One. I love you. Now the processor in this is a Qualcomm. What's that?
I was moving because I was scratching a mosquito.
All right. Ready?
Yeah. The mosquitoes are killing me!
All right, what's your favorite and least favorite thing about the phone?
I like that it's fast. Least favorite? It's really hard to think of something because I like pretty much everything
You're in the
about
sun.
it.
Come forward a little bit.
Maybe if it was just a little smaller. But I have small hands, so that's just kind of a subjective thing.
Jimmy, what's your favorite and least favorite thing about this
I
phone?
only have a least favorite thing.
What's your least favorite thing?
I don't have one.
Umbra, what's your favorite and least favorite thing about this phone right now? Huh?
My least favorite thing is that it's interface.
Umbra.